Well, I'll give you credit for doing a good Beetlejuice cosplay. After establishing that the him particles were still around, we saw something far more terrifying, at least for rarity.
This is a crime against fashion!
Hell, even Himiko's usual groupies, Hanayo and Fumika, couldn't justify it, and yet they secretly discussed how they were going to praise the naked or overdressed emperor in this case. Yeah, not too surprisingly, these two were just a couple of disingenuous suck-ups who followed whatever was popular, or in this case, had the deepest pockets. Fortunately, unlike Rotten Tomatoes, there were at least some honest critics out there. Still, even after rightfully getting ticked off at her, Momoko, along with her teammates, were just as quick to start sucking up to Himiko when she revealed she had tickets to a very exclusive gala, where it just so happened that there was going to be at least one celebrity that each of the girls were enamored with. You've used that line a lot on Doremi, haven't you? Yeah, as is so often with the show, we got an alumni from that other show we're reviewing on a bi-weekly basis. However, while Himiko could provide them with all the fancy steaks a certain little witch could enjoy, she couldn't win against whatever was trendy, which in this case was the girls returning from another monster attack. This resulted in Fumika and Hanayo completely ignoring her, which got her so set off that she fired them as her groupies, even though I'm pretty sure that's about as legit an occupation as YouTubing. What are you coming to me for? I do this as a hobby. Not too surprisingly, Himiko quickly realized that she wanted her groupies not just for validation for her horrible fashion sense, but also just as some plain old company. Yeah, even though they likely started off as just a rich brat and her mooching entourage, the thing is, you can't just hang out with people for that long and not develop some sort of camaraderie. Thus, even when Himiko tried to pull a SpongeBob and replace her Garys with a couple of no-names or even the girls, it just wasn't the same. This seemed to be the same for the ex-groupies who tried to hide their loneliness by using the party as an excuse. And this moment of mean-spirited dishonesty was enough to attract the him particles, resulting in...
No!
Also, thanks subtitles, I totally couldn't figure out that reference on my own. Anyway, really half-assed designs aside, the two proved to be a couple of the more effective monsters of the show, as they had the most dangerous power of them all. Simp! Or in this case, their powers made the Simp be their personal puppet, which we could tell thanks to them putting a very heavy filter on their victims' voices.
What? What'd you say?
As a result, the mayor ended up taking them to the party. An older dude, or rather a politician, taking a couple of younger girls with him to a party. Yeah, I got nothing to say about that. Nothing at all. Having gone to the party with Himiko, intending to repair her relationship with the two, the girls quickly broke apart when they succumbed to their avarice. Though, unlike the professional groupies, they couldn't attract the attention of their respective idols. Said pros arrived at the hall, which Ken and Peach informed the girls about, forcing them to transform. And in a fun bit, the inverse of the previous scene happened, with the girls attracting everyone's attention, including that of their idols. Sadly, this did end up leaving Himiko high and dry, but it also attracted the attention of Fumi and Hana, who released the mayor from their control and made him realize that he had just fired his secretary. Please don't tell me this is where they got the inspiration for that stupid change in the 2016 reboot. FYI, I am aware of the next reboot, and am a little bit on the fence with it, but more on that at the end. But yeah, as it turned out, their powers could even work on the superpowered girls, making their voices reverberate too. Though come on, I know that Momoko can be egotistical, but it should be able to work on all of them. I mean, come on, when have we seen anyone get drunk off of the dopamine from a bunch of no-name idiots endlessly praising them, and that didn't take long? So yeah, this was another episode written by our old buddy Isao Murayama, and as usual, he does a good job throwing in at least some subtle messaging that matches well with the rest of the series. And while he didn't write that episode, this does almost feel like a follow-up to the Michelle episode, which also happened to feature Himiko when she had at least some sense of fashion. But yeah, both of these episodes essentially have messages about following trends, though in this case, it's a little more focused on the people involved and how their behaviors can and will change on the fly. If you're the one being graced, then absolutely be gracious of it, but also be aware of who your true companions are and don't disregard them in your pursuit of some meaningless admiration and or clout. And if you're on the follower side, then at least try to be somewhat loyal to them and show a little integrity. These might seem like basic principles, but the funny thing is, people tend to forget about them as soon as the phones come out. Anyway, things only got more complicated once Princess joined in on the action, and interestingly enough, Hana and Fumi were almost instinctively drawn to her as though their true selves knew that there was only one person that they could simp for. Nah, but seriously, I actually do kind of find it touching that these three did form a legit friendship beyond just being a rich brat and her entourage. Not that it was good news for the girls, as they made for a powerful combo complete with a lot of JoJo references. Hell, if you want the JoJo references, I'll give you the JoJo references. Granted, the animation here couldn't exactly make for anything technically impressive, but I will say it's kind of cool to see this version of Princess actually being a competent fighter. However, that didn't apply to her followers. Again, it's kind of insane how topical the show still is. This little distraction gave the girls the opening they needed to end the fight in quick order. And again, while the visuals weren't great, at least the resulting gag was pretty good after they managed to turn them all back to normal. No, I think they just have a bad case of the shafts. And the episode ended with the three reconciling thanks to their crooked necks. It's more heartwarming in context. Like a lot of Himiko episodes, this was a lot of fun, though also surprisingly deep in areas, which isn't too surprising considering the writer. I mean, I don't know if these sorts of messages are just timeless or if the writers are just frickin' fortune tellers, but an episode with a message about following trends and recognizing who your true companions are is something I think we all need to hear a little more these days. And while the animation certainly could have been better, I think we can all agree that Himiko's dresses were something. While I highly doubt anyone was expecting to see classmate A and B get development, I gotta say, after watching this, it wasn't unwelcome. Yeah, their monster forms are nothing special, at least Himiko's fro stands out, but their powers were interesting and did match up well with their personalities as well as the message of the episode. The idea, of course, being that it's easy to be swayed by whatever seems to be popular at the moment, but for either the party receiving or giving the admiration, it shouldn't define who you are. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that really should matter is being with those who really matter to you. Trends in popularity will always inevitably fade, but earnest relationships can last. Interestingly though, this episode also didn't fully discourage forming or having followings. The girls managed to get closer to their respective idols thanks to their superheroine personas and realized that they're not that much different, and Fumi and Hana did become legit friends with Himiko, likely through their simping. As long as you can truly come to understand people and confirm that they're not just toxic manipulators or leeches, then followings aren't necessarily a bad thing, as they can bring us closer to good people. It's all a very nuanced take that makes this another episode that's kind of worth revisiting in an age plagued by the idea that we all have to be following something or another. And while the animation wasn't the greatest, even for this show, it still managed to get some good laughs just from some of the faces. I almost relate too much with the baggy-eyed girls. And overall, it's another surprisingly good episode with a strong, relevant message. I think it's interesting that we're doing another one of these kind of timely episodes, just as another repetitive trend has come our way with another reboot, which, yeah, we'll see how that turns out. I mean, yeah, I know Craig McCracken is coming back to be a part of the production, and while I'm almost certain he'll at least turn out a better product than the 2016 reboot, I do have my doubts that he'll be able to recapture the magic of the original. People's sensibilities can change, and while Craig might be the same guy, we know for a fact that CN is a very different channel than it used to be. Thus, they could just force Craig to incorporate whatever is the flavor of the month and make a lot of unnecessary mandates to be modern. Hell, in general, I would say the Western animation industry just isn't what it used to be and will result in some very unnecessary changes for some of these reboots. Seriously, what the holy hell? But yeah, unless I see something that can convince me otherwise, I'm just gonna curb my enthusiasm and enjoy this anime that somehow has really stood the test of time. Still, what do y'all think about Craig coming back to make another reboot, or even modern reboots in general? Feel free to leave your comments below, and until next time though, farewell for now my friends, and always remember that sometimes you just have to throw the phone aside and go outside. I actually better go get that because I have to make some important calls later.